And one thing that I really encourage parents with is regardless of what's going on the court, on the field, with practice and games, one of the most important things that parents can do is love their kid unconditionally. I think we kind of lose sight of that a little bit, is sometimes we think as parents that our parenting is reflected by the performance that our kids have on the field or the court or whatever. And in no way is that a reflection of us as parents and the things that we're teaching our kids. However, what I do believe is a reflection of us as parents is, well, are our kids good teammates? Do they like to work hard? Do they listen to their coaches? All of those things. And so I think we sometimes kind of have a misconception of what is actually a reflection of us as parents a lot of the times. And I think a lot of that comes down to, regardless of the performance that's happening on the field or the court or wherever they're competing, we have to love them unconditionally.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of At Home with Emily. It's a podcast about creating a life you love. I'm your host, Emily Wood, and you are joining us for part 2 in our series about kids and sports. And our guest today is Cody Pentecost. I've known Cody for several years now. And I think everybody in all levels of sports knows Cody because he works with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and in that role has been involved with every level of kids in sports, thousands of kids in Springfield and the surrounding area. And so you see it at all levels. And the reason that I wanted Cody to come in today specifically is because what he works with families and kids on goes far beyond athletics. And I know what you're really interested in is the family, is in the child and their development, in their mindset, in their heart set, and all the other things that can go just swept under the rug or forgotten about when we're so focused on the games and the practices, and we're not always thinking first, and I would say this for myself and a lot of parents, I'm sure, we're not always thinking first about our child's mind and heart, and that's the truth.
100%. That's something that I have seen in so many different ways. Sports can be amazing. I mean, that's what I've dedicated my life to. I grew up in the house of 2 coaches myself, who coached both at the high school and college level for over 30 years.
So in a way, you had no choice. That it was an expectation.
I think so.
You were going to play sports.
Yeah, 100%. And I loved it. But it was one of those things that I do think that if my parents hadn't have really had the approach that they did and kind of teaching me all of the other things that go along with sport, my life would have been kind of a completely different trajectory, is what I kind of think personally. So they handled that pretty well, I think.
Well, and even now, you even coach baseball yourself at the college level, as well as all of the responsibilities and the camps that you run. And I think probably the most important thing you do is connecting with athletes and their families one-on-one and getting to the heart of things and being that support system for them. And we're so blessed and grateful to have you here in Springfield. I don't know if you hear that very much, but we are. And we were just talking, there are so many different ways that we could go with this conversation. But for you, when you sit down with parents, and you give talks all the time, to hundreds, thousands of people at a time, I know some of the things that you focus on are those 3 dimensions of an athlete. Obviously, you have the physical side of competing. You have the mind and the emotions and all the things that get packed into sports. And then you have what you consider the heart side or the spiritual side of all of it, and how those 3 work together. So we'll try to get into each one of those and what you mean by them. But we'll just hit real quickly first on, obviously, the physical side. That's where most of us start when we're looking at sports as parents.
Yeah, definitely. The physical truly is like almost if you're looking at this kind of as like a pyramid, that's the bottom layer. I mean, that's the foundation. You have to be good physically in order to kind of advance the different ranks.
Prevent
and
injuries,
yeah,
stay
absolutely.
safe out there. All of that.
And so it's one of those things that for us as parents, and I mean, that's something first of all, I'll get into. I'm not an expert in this realm at all. But what I have found is kind of getting into this with my own kids, but also seeing different things at different levels and kind of doing some personal study as well, seeing how sports really can affect kids both physically, mentally, emotionally, those types of things. You know, you see just different elements that come with sport. And that's why I truly believe we see kids enjoying it and having fun with it. And why they want to participate with it is because it really is one of the only things really that encompasses that three-dimensional aspect of our being.
All the same
body,
time.
mind, spirit, all at the same time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think it is important for us as parents to really steward our kids' physical well-being through how they are participating in the different sports. Obviously, we want what's best for them. And so we want to be intentional about helping them physically improve their skills, their abilities, all of those different things as well. And so we have to be intentional about focusing on the physical side of things. But I also think that there's way more that we need to kind of think about as well when it comes to our kids' development.
I mean, even you're saying that, it's the bottom level of the pyramid. Obviously, rest is a part of that equation, and not overcommitting. My kids are busy, okay? Like, we're just as busy as everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
But they got to go to bed, and, I think it's good for kids to be involved in stuff and have responsibilities and grow and develop those relationships. But they also have to have a break. They also have to rest and take some time off and all of that. Because it's gotten to where they're doing stuff year round anymore.
Yeah, very true.
It used to be like you could play 5 games and be done with it. And it's just, laugh, but I'm like, that's how it used to be.
It is.
And it isn't anymore. And so as we're talking about those 3 different realms, and you were saying, to you, really one of the biggest ones is the mind and the emotions. And think about it. I mean, there's nothing like sports to teach you about life, and those are the good lessons that we learn out there, what it feels like to lose and how to do that with grace and to win. And you see tears from these little guys out there on the basketball court, and you see frustration, and they want to give up sometimes, and just all the emotions that just naturally come out when we're competing. But for you, it's almost like being protective over that in a way, right? And safeguarding.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you talk about that with parents and families?
Yeah, so one thing that's really kind of been a challenge for me, again, just with my sports background and my kids really getting deep into this world as well, but also just seeing what I think other parents kind of deal with. And one thing that I really encourage parents with is regardless of what's going on the court, on the field, with practice and games, one of the most important things that parents can do is love their kid unconditionally. I think we kind of lose sight of that a little bit, is sometimes we think as parents that our parenting is reflected by the performance that our kids have on the field or the court or whatever. And in no way is that a reflection of us as parents and the things that we're teaching our kids. However, what I do believe is a reflection of us as parents is, well, are our kids good teammates? Do they like to work hard? Do they listen to their coaches? All of those things. And so I think we sometimes kind of have a misconception of what is actually a reflection of us as parents a lot of the times. And I think a lot of that comes down to, regardless of the performance that's happening on the field or the court or wherever they're competing, we have to love them unconditionally.
And by the way, everybody has good days and everybody has hard days. Mm-hmm. And every coach I've ever talked to, they talk about the ride home.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
I mean, literally, Coach Nasby was in here from jury, and he was saying, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. They're 10. It does not matter.
Absolutely.
Why are you dwelling on it? Your relationship with that child is so much more important than the layup that they miss, you know?
Yeah, and kids, that's something us as adults, we have a hard time understanding how we process things compared to our kids processing things. And that's one thing that's been interesting is I've actually read a study that basically they, kind of did this exit study on a bunch of kids, and they actually asked them the question, what is your least favorite part about playing sports? And their number one answer, the ride home. That was the number one answer. That's their number one. Yeah.
It's not losing. It's not getting up to bat and striking out at the worst possible moment in the ninth inning. To kids, that's gone.
Yes.
Unless you keep dwelling on it. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so kind of my rule of thumb really is I'm going to let my kids bring it up. If they want to process it, let them kind of go through that process themselves. And then if they want to talk about it, they'll bring it up. They'll talk about it on their time. It doesn't have to be my time.
Even though you're a coach and you have all these things to add.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
But you're not necessarily their coach first, right?
100%.
Your dad.
Yep.
My mom.
Right.
And we're the safe place.
Yeah.
We're the place when everything seemed fine at school, but then they catch your eyes in the car line and turns out something hard happened at school. The eyes fill up with tears because they should be able to come to us.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
For that comfort. I think the other side of it too, Cody, is as the kids get bigger and they start realizing how important the wins and losses are to everybody else, such as the grown-ups in their lives, then don't they start to internalize that? I mean, it's all a part of parenting. Like what we teach them are our values. They start to internalize that and be careful for what those are, right? That you're teaching them. Yeah. Because what is that pressure like that we can maybe unintentionally place on our children, and what can the impact be for them?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that we see a lot of kind of detrimental feelings that kind of come from that, and emotions and how that kind of takes place. And
like
so,
self-worth? Is that what you're getting into?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely one thing that we see. And it's also one of those that again, kind of another study that I've seen done on this type of thing, which I get these studies actually from a couple of different places. I've done a lot of research with Dr. Jeff Duke, who actually is the founder and creator of an organization called 3-Dimensional Institute. And they do a lot of this kind of 3-dimension aspect and teaching parents and coaches how to provide resources in all three of these dimensions, but also seeing some other sports psychology elements to it. But one thing that we've seen in some of this study is that 75% or more kids will quit a sport because it's not fun anymore. And that's the reason.
Which is supposed to be the whole point.
That's the whole reason. Yeah, exactly. We play sport to do just that, play. And so it's one of those things that when it doesn't become fun anymore, that's when kids don't want to participate in those activities. And honestly, they lose the joy in which sport was created to provide to all of us. And so I think you see a lot of that comes out. And so again, yeah, from a parent's perspective and everybody else, a lot of the words that are being spoken to our kids are all performance based. It's all and of course, what's the first question? What's the first question you ask a kid when the game's over?
Did you make any baskets?
Yeah. Did you win? Did you have any points? I was going to say, did you have fun? Is what I normally try to ask. But. Well, that's a great question to ask. But it's just one of those things that you do see that type of thing kind of come upon our kids, and that does put a lot of unnecessary pressure on them, and it really starts to really think our kids start to think, wow, that's what I meant. That's what I mean. That's what I'm worth is those things. And so, again, something that I encourage parents to really provide kind of a habit, and something that I've started using with my own kids as best as I can. I don't do this well all the time, but I just start telling them, man, I love to watch you play.
I love to watch you play.
That's it. I love to watch you play. And really praising the effort. I'm not praising the performance, but really praising, man, wow, you really worked hard today. You could tell that you played hard, and that was great, and all of those different things. You will immediately
see it in your child. Kind of puff up a little bit. Oh, Dad's proud of me. And that's when you realize how much impact that you have as a parent. I would say especially, up to age 12, when you're forming their character as a parent, and you've got that voice to speak into their lives. Joe White, who runs Kennecut Camps and who's a very well-known speaker, he put out this list of 100 ways to tell your child that you love them. And one of the biggest ones that stuck out to me was attend their sporting events and watch quietly.
Yep.
The second half of it, I'm like, I attend the sporting events. Oh, quietly?
Yeah.
I'm going to work on the second half of that. And it's not about being the loudest mom in the stands or, hey, my kid was fouled, which is very easy to do.
Yeah.
You won't even recognize yourself once your kids start playing sports sometimes. But to watch quietly, all it is that you're there. That's what it is to your child.
Exactly.
You're there. And so when we're looking at these dimensions and we're talking, we hit on the physical, we hit on the mental side, which is huge. And then the third one, you kind of put under an umbrella of the heart. Tell me what you mean by that and how that's different from the mental and emotional side.
Yeah. The heart is everything. To us, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's a blood pumping muscle in our body, but at the same time, the heart is our core. I mean, that's who we are, and so it's one of those things that I believe that when we can capture our kids' hearts, that's ultimately when we're going to see them not just survive in this element of sports or even beyond in life, but really thrive. And so I think when we capture the heart and allow them to really understand that there is more than just wins and losses, X's and O's, all of those things, then we're able to really teach them that they are worth more than that, and that's what they're seeking, and that's what I think. This aspect of them that are trying to find self-worth, they're trying to find identity, and all of these other elements that really build them and kind of form them as a whole, rather than just their performance as well. And so that is really the ultimate goal, in my opinion. And it's one of those things that truly, if we leave sport up to itself, we're not going to capture their heart. We're not going to develop their character in that. Because again, going back to another study that I've seen, is that ultimately we hear a lot of the times that character is built by sport, or sport builds character. You may have heard it that way.
Yeah.
But again, this study that has been done actually shows that kids, the longer that they are involved in sport, especially team sports, their character actually kind of takes a little bit of a dip.
Begins to erode.
And they're less likely to make good moral decisions. And,
why do you think that is?
And that's because I think if we leave sport just to itself, you start to see those negative aspects creep in. Our culture is feeding a lot of negativity through sport. And so if us as parents are not intentional about teaching the things that will help them provide good character within that, then we're going to be left with a disaster,
it can
in
turn
my
ugly,
opinion.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
look at the fights that you see on the football field.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I mean, emotions are high.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we have to know what to do with those emotions, right? And
Exactly.
we have to know exactly what you said, what our core values are, and who we are. And just to kind of go back to, because I think the heart and the mental side kind of go together, like what you were saying. For me as a parent, it always breaks my heart when I see a child, whether it be my own or somebody else's, that is desperately seeking the parent's approval based on how that they perform.
Yep.
Because it's crushing for a kid then if they make a mistake.
Yeah.
And how do they handle that? And they're hurting. They're not hurting because they made the mistake. They're hurting because they're afraid of your reaction.
Exactly.
And if that's what's going on as a parent, I think we need to look into our own hearts, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's something truly, I've heard it said that in order for us to take our kids on this journey, that you can't lead somebody to a place that you first haven't been. And I think that goes for us as parents.
Introspection.
We
Hard to do,
have
isn't
to.
it?
Oh, it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
If it was easy, that's kind of one of those things. Everybody would do it. We wouldn't have any of these issues.
Yeah.
That we see in our culture today. But truly, I think we have to go through this journey first as parents. We have to really embrace the hard things and deal with ourselves and kind of go from.
Why is this so important to you, Emily? You know, like
Exactly.
why?
Yeah.
Is it to what end? So you can say that my kid is good at basketball. My kid's got a great swing out there on the golf course, and I'm going to make sure he gets a college scholarship at any, I mean,
Right.
what is the end goal here, right? And looking at that as a parent, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like if we're looking at it as accomplishment driven and trying to seek out scholarship or all of those different things, again, we're going to be left disappointed every time.
Which you are equipped to handle, but remember you're raising a child.
Exactly.
And are you giving them the skills
Exactly.
for all of those situations as well?
Mm-hmm.
So with FCA, that's kind of a big part of what you channel,
Yeah,
teach.
it is, because that's one of those things that we believe just within FCA, that you can't capture the heart without a spiritual element to it. And so it's one of those things that we want to provide opportunities for kids, coaches, families, to really dive into that heart issue of, hey, well, what is my identity? What is my self-worth? How am I regulating and handling the emotions or my response to different situations? I believe personally that it goes beyond just our physical well-being and our mental state of mind. It goes to the fact that we need kind of some additional help that goes along with that. And so that's where we're going to point all of our kids, all of our coaches, all of our families that we're trying to help walk alongside. We want to point them to a source that we believe won't really fade away. It is going to maintain kind of a consistent feel with whether that's sports or beyond. And that's our relationship with Jesus Christ. And so we're really trying to really convey the opportunity to allow our worth, our identity to not be set in something that will fade, that will disappoint us.
Every single time you're out on the court, in the field, and everywhere else.
Exactly.
Right? So from your perspective, it's what can be consistent throughout their lives in and out of sports.
Yes, 100%.
Cody, thank you so much for coming in today and just shedding light on the conversation. Always grateful for your perspective.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a joy. Always love talking about sport in any form or fashion, and this is something that I'm really passionate about, and would love for parents to be able to give their kid the best possible experience as they're growing up through youth sport.
And ultimately, when your child is grown and you have grandchildren, that your kid looks back with a smile about spending time with you.
Yes, exactly.
To and from and at the games, and it's a good memory.
Yes,
right?
100%.
Thanks, Cody.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you guys so much for being here for this episode of At Home with Emily. If you're watching this on YouTube, will you please be sure to like and subscribe, and that way you'll be notified when our next episode drops, which it's every Wednesday. We are halfway through a 4-part series about kids and sports, and the next 2 episodes you do not want to miss. If you are on social media, Instagram and Facebook are big ones for us at Around the Ozarks, and you can also head to AroundTheOzarks.com, where you can sign up for our daily newsletter so you don't miss a thing. We'll see you next time.